The great hall stretched for miles in every direction, its crystal walls gleaming under the light of 3 artificial suns. 12 massive podiums rose from the floor, each one designed for a different alien species. The Galactic Council was in session, and the most powerful beings in known space had gathered for their most important meeting of the decade. Jinho stood at the small human podium, his hands steady despite the weight of what he was about to ask for. He had been Earth's ambassador for 5 years now, and he had learned to hide his feelings behind a calm face. The other species looked down at him from their towering platforms, some literally and others just in spirit. The Vorthak were beings made of living crystal, their bodies catching and reflecting light in patterns that hurt human eyes to look at directly. They had ruled the mining worlds for 8,000 years. Next to them floated the Nalumi, creatures of gas and energy who controlled the atmospheric processing of hundreds of worlds. The mechanical Chorix clicked and whirred as they calculated trade routes that spanned entire star systems. These were the elder races, the ones who had built galactic civilization when humans were still learning to make fire. They never let anyone forget it. The human delegation may now present their requests, announced the Vorthak Prime speaker, its voice like wind chimes made of diamonds. The sound was beautiful and cold at the same time. Jinho activated his presentation device. Holographic displays showed detailed plans that his team had worked on for 2 years. Honored council members, humanity requests permission to establish 3 new colonies in the Outer Rim territories. We also ask for expanded mining rights in sectors 7G through 12G. The displays showed everything. Terraforming schedules that would turn dead rocks into garden worlds in just 50 years. Mining operations that would extract rare metals without damaging the planets. Defense plans that could protect the colonies from space pirates and hostile aliens. Sumi had designed the engineering systems herself. She was the best engineer humanity had ever produced, and her plans were perfect. Every detail had been checked and double-checked. The human colonies would be efficient, clean, and profitable for everyone. Our terraforming technology has improved by 300% in the last decade, Jinho continued. We can turn hostile worlds into productive colonies faster than ever before. The mining operations will provide rare metals that the Council needs for expansion projects. He paused, looking up at the towering aliens around him. Humanity is ready to take on greater responsibilities in galactic civilization. The silence that followed was not the good kind. It was the kind of silence that came before a storm. The Vorthak Prime Speaker's crystal body flashed with colors that Jinho had learned meant amusement, not the friendly kind. Ambassador Jinho, your species, has been part of this council for 50 years. 50 years is not even a moment in galactic time. We have built civilizations that span galaxies for 10,000 years, added the Nalumi representative, its gaseous form swirling with dismissive patterns. Your people were living in caves when we were traveling between stars. The Chorix delegates' mechanical voice was flat and emotionless. Calculation complete. Human space presence, minimal. Human technological contribution, basic manufacturing only. Human request probability of approval, 0.001%. Jinho felt his heart sink, but he kept his face calm. Respectfully, our contributions have been significant. Human innovations in atmospheric processing have increased. Efficiency on 47 worlds. Our manufacturing techniques have reduced production costs across 12 sectors. Yes, said another council member, a reptilian creature from the Sectar species. Humans are useful for manual labor and basic manufacturing. You should be proud of your contributions to galactic society. The words hit like a slap. Jinho had expected resistance, but not this level of contempt. We are not asking to be laborers forever. Humanity has proven we can innovate, explore, and lead. Innovation. The Vorthak Prime Speaker's laughter sounded like breaking glass. You use technology we developed millions of years ago. You follow trade routes we mapped when your son was young. Everything you have achieved is because we allowed it. Your expansion requests are denied, announced the council in unison, their voices combining into a sound that echoed through the massive hall. Humanity will continue in its current role. Manufacturing quotas will be increased by 20% to meet growing galactic demand. Jinho's carefully prepared arguments died in his throat. 2 years of work, dismissed in minutes. What about our existing colonies? Surely, about that, interrupted the Nalumi representative. The Council has decided that 3 of your current colonies would be better managed by more experienced species. The worlds of New Busan, Taebaek Station, and the Seoul Mining Complex will be transferred to Vorthak control within 6 months. The words hit Jin-Ho like a physical blow. Those colonies housed over 50 million humans. New Busan was where his own sister lived with her family. You cannot simply take our worlds. Our people have lived there for decades. They have built lives, families. The decision is final, said the Vorthak Prime Speaker. We are not taking anything. We are optimizing resource allocation for the benefit of galactic civilization. Your people will be relocated to appropriate facilities. Appropriate facilities? Jin-Ho's calm finally cracked. What does that mean? Housing will be provided near manufacturing centers where human workers are needed, explained the Corax delegate. Efficiency will improve when humans live closer to their work assignments. The other council members nodded their approval. To them, it was just a logical decision. Move the workers closer to the factories. Humans were not people with lives and dreams. They were just resources to be managed. Jin-Ho looked around the great hall at the alien faces staring down at him. Some showed amusement, others showed nothing at all. None showed any understanding that they were talking about destroying millions of human lives. The council session is concluded, announced the Prime Speaker. Ambassador Jin-Ho will receive detailed relocation instructions within the week. The massive aliens began to leave their podiums, their conversations already moving on to other topics. The human crisis was solved as far as they were concerned. Just move the humans around like furniture and everything would be fine. Jin-Ho stood alone at his small podium as the great hall emptied. His hands shook as he turned off his presentation device. All those beautiful plans, all those dreams of human expansion among the stars. Gone. Worse than gone. Humanity was being pushed backward, turned into a servant species. He thought of Sumi, waiting back on Earth for news of whether her colony designs would be approved. He thought of President Haiwan, who had trusted him to secure humanity's future. He thought of his sister on New Busan, who had no idea that her world was about to be taken away. The walk back to his ship felt like the longest journey of his life. Behind him, the crystal walls of the council hall continued to gleam, beautiful and cold as the beings who ruled from within them. Humanity had asked for respect and been given contempt. They had offered partnership and been assigned slavery. As his ship prepared to jump back to Earth, Jin-Ho wondered if there was any other choice left to make. The Council had made their decision about humanity's worth. Now it was time for humanity to make theirs. The emergency session had been going for 18 hours straight. President Haiwan sat at the head of the long table, her face showing the weight of the impossible decision she had to make. Around her, the leaders of Earth's nations, colonies, and military forces argued in heated voices about humanity's future. Jin-Ho had returned from the Galactic Council 3 days ago with news that shattered everything. The Council had not just denied their requests, they had taken away existing human colonies and ordered humans to live near factory complexes like workers in company towns. We cannot fight them, General Park said for the 5th time, his military uniform wrinkled from the long meeting. Their ships outnumber ours 1,000 to 1. Their technology is millions of years ahead of ours. A war would be suicide. So we just accept being slaves? Demanded Dr. Lee, the representative from the Mars colonies. We let them move our families around like cattle? My daughter was born on New Busan. That world is her home. Better alive. Slaves than dead heroes, replied Ambassador Chen from the Luna stations. At least if we submit, humanity survives. If we fight, they will wipe us out completely. Haiwan listened to the same arguments that had been going in circles for hours. Submit or fight, accept slavery or face extinction. Both choices led to the destruction of human freedom and dignity. But Jin-Ho had suggested a third option, and the more Haiwan thought about it, the more sense it made. What if we do neither? She asked quietly. The room fell silent. All eyes turned to her. What if we simply leave? She continued. Pack up everything and everyone and go somewhere else. Go where? asked General Park. The Council controls known space, every habitable system, every trade route, every safe passage between stars. Where could we go that they would not find us? Jin-Ho leaned forward. Unknown space. The areas beyond. They're maps. Space is infinite, but the Council only controls a tiny part of it. They have grown comfortable with their territory and stopped exploring. That is because unknown space is dangerous, said Dr. Kim from the Science Council. No maps, no safe routes, no way to know what is out there. We could jump into a star or a black hole. We could find hostile aliens even worse than the Council. Or we could find worlds that no one has ever seen, Jin-Ho replied. Worlds that belong to no one. Worlds where humans can build whatever we want without asking permission from crystal beings who think we are insects. The debate exploded again. Some called the idea brilliant, others called it insane. But Hye-Won noticed something different in the voices now. Instead of despair, she heard hope. Instead of defeat, she heard possibility. Sumi, who had been quiet for hours, finally spoke up. It could work. Not easily, but it could work. We would need to evacuate every human settlement in Council space. 2.3 billion people across 47 colonies and 200 space stations. The logistics alone would be nightmare. What? About our technology? Asked Dr. Kim. We depend on Council infrastructure for everything. Jump gates, communication networks, manufacturing systems. Without those, we go back to the Stone Age. Not necessarily, said Tae Yang, the young quantum physicist who had been scribbling equations on his tablet throughout the meeting. I have been working on something. A new type of jump technology that does not need their gates. Everyone stared at him. Tae Yang was only 26 years old, but he was the smartest human alive when it came to space travel. If anyone could solve the technical problems, it was him. The Council uses quantum gates that are thousands of years old, he explained, his excitement growing as he talked. They work, but they are slow and inefficient. I have been developing quantum tunnels that create temporary passages through space. No permanent gates needed. We could jump anywhere, even into unmapped space. How long would you need to make this work? Asked Hye-Won. 6 months, maybe less. The theory is solid. I just need to build the practical systems. The room buzzed with new energy. For the first time in days, there was something besides surrender or death to talk about. But Min-Ho, the head of colonial administration, raised a serious concern. Even if we can solve the technical problems, this means abandoning everything. Every human colony, every business, every life we have built among the stars. People have homes out there. They have invested their whole lives in those worlds. And the Council is taking those worlds away anyway, Jin-Ho pointed out. The difference is whether we lose everything while staying as slaves or lose everything while gaining our freedom. Hye-Won made her decision. We put it to a vote. Not just the leaders in this room, but every human in space, every colonist, every worker, every family. This decision is too big for us to make alone. The global referendum took 3 weeks to organize. The question was simple enough for anyone to understand. Should humanity withdraw completely from Galactic Council, space and seek our own path among the stars? The debate that followed was unlike anything in human history. Families argued around dinner tables on distant worlds. Workers in asteroid mines discussed it during their shifts. Children in schools asked their teachers what it meant to leave, the only galaxy they had ever known. Some argued for staying. The Council may be arrogant, but they provide safety, said one popular video blogger. Unknown space could hold terrors beyond imagination. At least here we know the rules. Others demanded departure. They treat us like animals, declared a factory worker from Europa. My grandfather fought for human dignity on Earth. I will not surrender it among the stars. The young people mostly supported leaving. They had grown up hearing Council aliens call humans primitive and worthless. They wanted to prove that humanity could build something better. The older generation was more divided. They remembered the early days when joining the Council had seemed like humanity's greatest achievement. Leaving felt like admitting failure. But as the votes came in from across human space, a pattern emerged. The margin was not huge, but it was clear. 67% chose departure. President Hye-Won announced the results to a watching galaxy. The human people have spoken. We will begin immediate preparations for complete withdrawal from Galactic Council space. The response from the council was swift and dismissive. "Empty threats," declared the Vorthak Prime speaker in a public broadcast. "Humans cannot survive without our protection and infrastructure. They will be back within a year, begging for readmission to civilized space." But Sumi was already working 20-hour days organizing the largest migration in galactic history. Every human settlement had to be evacuated. Every piece of human technology had to be removed or destroyed. Every trace of human presence had to disappear. The council thought humanity was bluffing. They were about to learn how wrong they were, Ama. The first human ships began powering up their engines and preparing for departure. Haiwan looked out at the stars from her office window. Somewhere out there, beyond the edge of known space, lay humanity's future. It might be dangerous, but it would be free. The council had ignored humanity's worth when they offered partnership. Now they would learn what that worth really meant when it was gone. The massive cargo ships moved through space like a swarm of metal locusts, stripping everything human from the colonies they had called home for decades. Sumi watched from the bridge of the command vessel as her teams worked with mechanical precision to dismantle New Busan piece by piece. It had been 4 months since the vote, and the great departure was ahead of schedule. Every human settlement in council space was being evacuated at the same time. The logistics were mind-breaking, but somehow it was working. "Colony 7 Alpha is complete," reported Captain Bora from her escort ship. "All civilians evacuated. All equipment removed. The defense platforms are being loaded onto transport ships now." Sumi marked another colony off her list. 37 down, 10 to go. Each one hurt to abandon, but leaving them intact would be worse. The council species would move in and claim everything humans had built. That was not going to happen. "What about the atmospheric processors?" she asked over the communication channel. "Dismantled completely," came the reply from the ground teams. "We even took the foundation supports, nothing but empty buildings left behind. That was the pattern everywhere. Humans were not just leaving. They were taking everything with them. Manufacturing equipment, mining machinery, orbital platforms, even the decorative gardens from the colony centers. If human hands had built it, human hands were taking it away. The council had expected humans to simply pack their personal belongings and go. Instead, they found themselves watching the systematic removal of technology and infrastructure they had come to depend on without realizing it. Jiwon stood in the center of what used to be the Seoul mining complex, directing the final phase of evacuation. The massive asteroid facility had been humanity's proudest achievement in space, a mining operation that could extract rare metals from solid rock without destroying the asteroid itself. "Strip everything," she ordered her teams. "Every computer, every scanner, every piece of mining equipment. If we designed it, we take it." The work was dangerous and exhausting. Her people were working in vacuum suits, cutting apart machinery that had been built to last for centuries. But they did it with smiles on their faces. Every piece of equipment they saved was a piece of human achievement that the council could not claim. "Ma'am," called out one of her technicians. "The council. Observers are demanding to know why we are removing the primary extraction systems. They say those were built with council resources." Jiwon laughed, a sound that carried clearly over the communication system. "Tell them to check their records. Every bolt, every wire, every computer chip in those systems was manufactured by human workers using human designs. We improved their ancient technology so much they forgot it used to barely work at all." The technician grinned and went back to his cutting torch. Meanwhile, in the research labs scattered across human space, Tae Yang was putting the finishing touches on his quantum tunnel technology. The breakthrough had come faster than expected, partly because he no longer had to worry about council regulations that forbade certain types of space-time research. "The first tunnel is ready for testing," he announced to Sumi over the secure channel. "We can open a passage to anywhere within 1,000 light-years, even into unmapped space." "How safe is it?" Sumi asked. Safety was her biggest concern with 2 billion lives depending on the technology. "Safer than council jump gates," Tae Yang replied with confidence. "Their technology rips holes in space and hopes for the best. Our tunnels create temporary bridges that close cleanly behind us. No trace left for anyone to follow." The first test was conducted using an unmanned probe. The quantum tunnel opened like a flower made of twisted starlight, beautiful and terrifying at the same time. The probe disappeared into the swirling energy and emerged 200 light-years away in a system that had never been mapped by any known species. The probe sent back images of untouched worlds orbiting a young star. No cities, no space stations, no signs of intelligent life, just clean planets waiting for someone to discover them. "It works," Tae Yang whispered, staring at the images. "We can go anywhere." Back in Council space, the aliens were beginning to realize that something was seriously wrong. The first sign came when the food processing facilities on Vorthak Prime started malfunctioning. The crystal beings had not eaten solid food in millions of years, but they needed special nutrient solutions that required complex filtration systems. Systems that had been designed and maintained by human technicians for the past 50 years. "The filtration arrays are failing," reported the facility manager to the Vorthak Prime speaker. "We cannot produce food without them." "Then repair them," the Prime speaker replied with irritation. "Use the backup systems." The backup systems were upgraded by human engineers 20 years ago. We do not have the technical specifications for the new components. For the first time in centuries, the Vorthak Prime speaker felt something like concern. Similar problems were appearing throughout Council space. The gaseous Nalumi discovered that their atmospheric processors were shutting down one by one. Human scientists had been quietly maintaining and improving the ancient systems for decades, fixing problems that the Nalumi had not even known existed. The mechanical Chorix faced the worst crisis of all. Their automated mining platforms, supposedly self-maintaining for millions of years, started going dark. Investigation revealed that human technicians had been secretly repairing critical flaws in the original programming. Without constant human intervention, the ancient machines simply broke down. Captain Bora led the defensive fleets that protected the evacuation convoys. Her ships were outnumbered by Council forces, but the Council had not tried to stop the human departure. They still thought it was a temporary tantrum that would end when humans realized they could not survive alone. They had no idea that humans were not going alone. The quantum tunnels opened into regions of space that the Council had never explored. Areas where younger species lived, species that had never heard of the arrogant Galactic Council and their age-based hierarchy. Species that judged others by what they could do, not how long they had been doing it. "First contact established with the Kelu Federation," reported Captain Bora from her forward scout ship. "They seem interested in trade agreements and mutual defense pacts." "What about the Harmony Collective we detected last month?" asked Sumi. "Even better. They operate on principles of contribution and cooperation. No species is considered superior because of age. They judge civilizations by their actions and innovations." Sumi felt hope growing in her chest. Humanity was not just escaping from the Council. They were finding something better. The final human ships departed from Council space on a Tuesday morning, Earth Standard Time. Jiwon sealed the airlock on the last transport and looked back at the empty colonies they were leaving behind. Bare buildings and empty platforms, stripped of everything that had made them home. "All human assets secured," she reported to Sumi. "All civilians evacuated. All equipment and technology removed. Council space is now free of human presence." Sumi broadcast the final message to the Galactic Council. "You wanted us gone. We are gone. Do not look for us. You will not find us." The quantum tunnels swallowed the last human ships, and humanity disappeared into the cosmic dark like they had never existed at all. Behind them, the lights began going out across Council space as systems that had relied on human maintenance started to fail. The Council had gotten exactly what they asked for. They were about to discover what that really meant. Council Speaker Vexhai stood in the emergency session chamber, his crystal body flickering with colors that meant deep worry. 6 months had passed since the humans vanished, and the Galactic Council was facing its worst crisis in thousands of years. "The situation reports," he announced to the gathered representatives, his voice no longer carrying its usual arrogance. Prime Calculator Zen of the Chorix species rolled forward on his mechanical legs, data streaming across his display panels. Manufacturing output down 43% across all sectors. Transportation efficiency reduced by 61%. 3 major trade routes completely non-functional. The numbers were bad, but they only told part of the story. The real problem was much worse than anyone had imagined when the humans first left. "How is this possible?" demanded Fleet Commander Eulos, her gaseous form swirling with frustrated patterns. Humans were just workers, manual laborers. How could their absence cause such widespread damage? Prime Calculator Zen's mechanical voice carried what almost sounded like embarrassment. Analysis reveals that humans were not simply following orders. They were actively improving our systems. For decades, they had been solving problems we did not know existed. The revelation hit the Council like a meteor strike. The proud aliens who had dismissed humans as primitive workers were discovering that their entire civilization had become dependent on human innovation and problem-solving. Explain, ordered Council Speaker Vexhai. Example 1. Zen began, projecting holographic displays. The atmospheric processing stations on Nalumi Prime. Our records show they were built 5,000 years ago and have run automatically ever since. Investigation reveals that humans have been manually adjusting the systems every day for the past 50 years. Fleet Commander Eulos's gaseous form turned dark with shock. That is impossible. Those stations were perfect Nalumi engineering. They were failing, Commander. The original design had flaws that became critical over time. Human technicians identified and corrected thousands of problems. They never reported these fixes because they assumed we knew about them. More examples followed, each one more damaging than the last. The Vorthak food processing centers that had seemed to run perfectly were actually held together by human-designed backup systems. Mining operations that had claimed to be self-sufficient had been secretly maintained by human engineers who worked overtime to keep ancient machinery functioning. But the worst discovery came from the Korix homeworld itself. Our primary industrial platforms, Zen reported, his voice flat with mechanical despair. 17 facilities have gone completely offline. Analysis shows that human technicians were performing critical repairs daily. They were covering for fundamental design flaws in our million-year-old systems. Ambassador Koth of the reptilian sectar species spoke for the first time. You mean our technology was broken? Not broken, Zen corrected. Obsolete. Our designs were perfect when they were created, but technology evolves. The universe changes. We stopped adapting because humans were doing the adapting for us. The silence that followed was heavy with the weight of realization. The Council species had become stagnant, relying on humans to keep their ancient civilizations functioning in a changing galaxy. Council Speaker Vexhai pulled up the exploration reports, hoping for better news. What he found was even worse. Galactic's expansion has stopped completely, he announced. No new systems surveyed this quarter. No new colonies established. No first contact with unknown species. How is that possible? Asked Ambassador Koth. We have been expanding for millennia. Human survey teams were conducting 97% of our exploration missions, came the answer from the data files. We assigned them this work because we considered it dangerous and beneath the dignity of elder species. The truth was becoming clear. Humans had not just been workers or even junior partners. They had been the engine that drove galactic civilization forward. While the elder species sat in comfortable meetings and made grand pronouncements, humans had been doing the actual work of exploration, innovation, and problem-solving. The trade routes, Fleet Commander Eulos said quietly. The ones that have failed. They were all mapped by human survey teams, were they not? The answer was yes. Humans had been finding safe passages between stars, identifying new resources, making first contact with previously unknown species. The Council had taken credit for these achievements while treating the humans who made them possible as expendable laborers. But there was more bad news coming. Economic projections, announced Zen, displaying charts that made every Council member's equivalent of a heart sink. Current trajectory leads to complete industrial collapse within 18 months. Food production failures within 12 months. Transportation grid breakdown within 6 months. Can we not simply rebuild the systems ourselves? Asked Ambassador Koth desperately. Negative. Analysis shows that human modifications were so extensive that we no longer understand our own technology. They improved our designs so gradually that we never noticed how dependent we had become. The most painful discovery was still to come. In the secure archives, investigators found thousands of human reports that had been filed but never read. Reports detailing system failures, suggesting improvements, warning about potential problems. The humans had been trying to help for decades, but the Council had ignored them. They were telling us our systems were failing, Council Speaker Vex High said, reading through report after report. Every year, they submitted detailed analyses of critical infrastructure problems. We filed these reports and forgot about them. Why would they help us if we treated them so poorly? Wondered Fleet Commander Eulos. The answer came from the reports themselves. Human engineers writing detailed explanations of problems, not because they were ordered to, but because they genuinely wanted to help. Human scientists working unpaid overtime to solve issues that affected entire worlds. Human explorers risking their lives to find new routes and resources for species that called them primitive. They were trying to be good galactic citizens, Ambassador Koth said with something like wonder in his voice. Even when we dismissed them, they kept trying to contribute. 3 council member species had already withdrawn from the alliance, unable to cope with the cascading failures in their territories. The proud Zilani had lost so many manufacturing facilities that they could no longer maintain their spacefaring civilization. The ancient Viridian Collective had suffered complete atmospheric processor failures on their core worlds. The remaining species faced a simple choice: find the humans and somehow convince them to return, or watch galactic civilization collapse completely. Motion to authorize emergency expeditionary fleets, announced Council Speaker Vex High. Our mission: locate humanity and negotiate their immediate return to Council space. The vote was unanimous, something that had never happened in Council history. But there was one small problem that nobody wanted to mention aloud. The humans had vanished using technology that left no trail to follow. The quantum tunnels they had developed were completely undetectable once closed. Nobody had any idea where humanity had gone. Fleet Commander Eulos was put in charge of the search operation, but even she knew it was hopeless. The galaxy was vast, beyond imagination, and the humans could be anywhere. They might be thriving in some distant star cluster, or they might have found allies among species the Council had never encountered. As the first search ships departed Council space, heading into the unknown regions where humans might have fled, the lights continued going out across the galactic civilization that had once seemed eternal. The price of arrogance was becoming clear. The Council had ignored humanity's worth when they offered partnership. Now they were learning what that worth had really been. Admiral Jin Ho stood on the bridge of the flagship New Sol, watching the construction of humanity's latest orbital city through the massive viewing windows. 5 years had passed since the Great Departure, and the sight before him would have been impossible to imagine back in Council space. The Andromeda Gateway region stretched out in all directions, filled with human colonies that sparkled like jewels against the cosmic dark. 89 thriving worlds, each one a testament to what humanity could achieve when freed from the Council's restrictions and contempt. Admiral, reported Captain Danby from her exploration vessel Busan's Pride. The Harmony Collective delegation has arrived for the Trade Summit. They are requesting permission to tour our research facilities. Jin Ho smiled. The Harmony Collective was everything the Galactic Council was not. A multi-species alliance that judged civilizations by their contributions and innovations, not their age or origin. When humanity had made first contact with them 2 years ago, they had been welcomed as equals and partners. Permission granted. Show them everything. Let them see what free people can accomplish. In the engineering section of the orbital city, Sumi was putting the finishing touches on humanity's greatest achievement yet. The megastructure they had built was larger than anything in Council space, but that was not what made it special. What made it special was that it had been designed from the ground up by human imagination, without any limitations imposed by alien bureaucrats who thought they knew better. The new manufacturing systems are online, she reported to Jin Ho. Production capacity is now 3 times what we had in all of Council space combined, and the quality is better too. That was the real miracle of human independence. Without the Council's rules about what humans were allowed to research and develop, human technology had leaped forward by centuries in just 5 years. Freed from restrictions and encouraged to innovate, human scientists and engineers had created wonders. Tae Yang emerged from his quantum research laboratory with news that would have shocked the Council if they had known about it. The communication breakthrough is complete, he announced. Faster than light messaging anywhere in the galaxy. We can talk to anyone, Anywhere, instantly. How fast? Asked Sumi. Immediate. The quantum entanglement creates instant connections. Across any distance. No delays, no signal degradation, no way for anyone to intercept or block the communications. Jin-Ho whistled softly. The Council still used communication systems that took days or weeks to send messages between distant worlds. Humanity had just made their technology obsolete, overnight. But the best news came from Captain Danby's deep space missions. "We have made contact with 12 new species in the past year alone," she reported during the daily briefing. "All of them are interested in joining the Harmony Collective. None of them have ever heard of the Galactic Council. That was the pattern throughout the unexplored regions. Younger species, older species, artificial intelligences, collective minds, all kinds of civilizations that had developed outside the Council's influence. And all of them were more interested in cooperation than domination. The galaxy is much bigger than the Council ever told us," Danby continued. "Their territory represents less than 1% of inhabited space. They have been sitting in their little corner, congratulating themselves on being important, while the rest of the galaxy moved on without them." President Haiwan, now governing the human independent territories from the capital city of New Earth, had been watching the Council's desperate search efforts with a mixture of amusement and pity. Their ships had been jumping randomly through space for 5 years, trying to find any trace of where humanity had gone. They had found nothing, because Taiyang's quantum tunnels left no trail to follow. Humanity had vanished as completely as if they had never existed. But the Council had not given up. Their civilization was collapsing, and they knew that only humanity could save them now. The proud species that had once dismissed humans as primitive workers were now begging the universe for a chance to find them. The message came on a Tuesday morning, transmitted on every frequency the Council could access. It was addressed to humanity, wherever they might be, and it was signed by Council Emergency Speaker Velnari, a position that had been created specifically to deal with the crisis humanity's departure had caused. "To the human people, wherever you may be," the message began. "The Galactic Council formally apologizes for our past mistakes. We recognize now that we failed to appreciate your contributions to galactic civilization. We humbly request the opportunity to discuss terms for your return to Council space." President Haiwan read the message aloud to her advisors, her voice carrying a mix of irony and sadness. "They apologize for their mistakes. They failed to appreciate our contributions. They humbly request our return." "5 years too late," commented Jin-Ho, who had joined the meeting via quantum communication from his flagship. "What should we tell them?" asked Sumi. Haiwan considered carefully. The Council had treated humanity with contempt when they offered partnership. They had dismissed human worth when they sought cooperation. They had demanded human departure when they asked for respect. But humanity was not the Council. Humans did not let past injustices turn them into monsters. "We respond," she decided, "but not the way they expect." The message that went out to Council. Space was broadcast on frequencies that reached every inhabited world in their territory. President Haiwan's voice carried clearly across the light years, speaking directly to ordinary citizens of Council species who had never heard the truth about what had happened. "To the people of the former Galactic Council," she began, "you ignored our worth when we sought partnership. You dismissed our contributions when we offered cooperation. You demanded our departure when we asked for respect. The price for your arrogance is not our absence. It is discovering what you lost when you chose to cast us out." She paused, letting the words sink in across Council space. "However, humanity does not seek revenge. We seek justice. We have found allies among the stars, species that judge others by their actions rather than their age. We have built a civilization based on cooperation and mutual respect. We invite you to join us." The terms were simple and shocking. Humanity would share their new technologies and discoveries, but only through the Harmony Collective. The Council. Species could apply for membership in the larger galactic community, but they would have to prove their worth through contribution, not heritage, and they would have to apply under human sponsorship. The response from Council Space was immediate and desperate. Within hours, applications began flooding in from individual worlds and species. The proud Vorthak, the ancient Nalumi, the mechanical Korix, all of them requesting the chance to join a civilization that their former servants had helped to build. Admiral Jin Ho watched from his flagship as the first council ships arrived at the edge of human space. They came not as conquerors or negotiators, but as applicants. The species that had once considered humanity unworthy now sought admission to a galaxy that humanity had helped to discover and organize. The irony was not lost on him. 5 years ago, he had stood in the council chamber as a supplicant, asking for permission to expand human civilization. Now, the former council members were the ones asking for permission to join something greater than they had ever imagined possible. Captain Danby's voice came over the communication system. Admiral, the Harmony Collective has approved the council applications for preliminary membership status. They will be placed on probation for 10 years to prove their commitment to cooperative principles. And if they fail the probation? Asked Jin Ho. Then they go back to their failing corner of space and collapse in isolation. Jin Ho nodded. It was fair. More than fair, considering what the council had done to humanity. The price had been paid in full. The galaxy belonged to those who earned it through contribution and cooperation, not those who assumed they deserved it because of age and arrogance. As the former council ships were escorted to processing stations by human vessels, Jin Ho looked out at the stars that now belonged to a truly galactic civilization, a civilization where worth was measured by what you gave, not what you took. Humanity had left council space as refugees and returned as architects of something far greater. The species that had ignored their worth now lived in a galaxy shaped by human values and human dreams. The dismissal had become triumph. The exodus had become expansion. The consequences had become justice. And the price had been paid in full.